Book 8. Religions refer to racial groups, ethnic groups, etc. Perhaps more often than not. Book 8. Natural selection in tribes through combat. Body types. The ability to remain conscious in motion, skywalking, footwork, timing, dexterity, agility, speed, sensitivity to motion, force, and more as a result of body coordination, mind, body, soul combination, were historically positive evolutionary traits as a result of African martial art combat and the spirit in which they were doing it. Thick clubs, sticks, axes, mason chain, lances, broadswords, and similar swords, fencing swords, with the accompanying technique, and other weapons commonly found in European warfare, while Africans were evolving in a pure martial arts way, made it so they were bred to be more suited in armored combat, and took them on the trajectory of colonizing this world, while the heavens were colonized by Africans, with all due respect. You can't have it both ways. Is that not a common Western saying? We see that in modern warfare, there is a genetic consideration that works in the Europeans' favor, and other groups with similar body types enjoy this advantage. Asian, Semites, they're kind of shorter and so on. It's harder to shoot them and so on. And Europeans used horses more in their cultures historically, and their agricultural cultures affected the way they evolved. So it was easier to dodge arrows and projectiles before they became bullets, right? Dodging bullets is not the same thing, right? So now the tall African Narmer types are at a great disadvantage. Africans whose martial artists rose to fame have the longest standing martial arts tradition, page 2, in response to evil people saying martial arts comes from Asia. Asians developed styles that include fixed or set positions and were designed to be applied by smaller men in a stealth manner, right? The shifting of stances, okay? The idea of martial arts comes from Africa, and the body types of the races make this clear. I mean, how stupid would you have to be not to put that together? And in the society I'm living in today, all the time people insist it comes from Asia, and they pretend like Africans didn't do anything. They don't specifically say Africans weren't doing anything, but it's subtly implied. It's like saying Africans aren't human and thinking it's okay not to say that they're subhuman, but when that's what you're getting at. Okay. One faces the problems that come with ethnocentrism, racial pride, and the fact that black Africans are the least financially established of the races. Martial arts in their earliest recorded and logically the earliest forms in general were done by black Africans. Okay, so we go to the tomb of Governor Amenemhat, I believe his name was, about 2800 BC. Okay, and of course that is after the Narmer Palette, which shows a martial arts victory. It doesn't take a genius to see that all the elements of martial arts are there, right? The spiritual belief system, the martial arts form, the weapons, the martial arts stance. And it's referring to a martial arts victory, mind, body, and soul over the other cults, right? These things are connected. When you're doing martial arts naturally, it is the victory, right? Verses versus verses, right? His verses, his religion, his scripture, his verses, his verses. Naturally, the martial arts religion proved it was true, period. And every scientist of note, every true careful observer, every wise man, every secret society man at the highest level acknowledges that. That's why it's about covering up the light, and they don't even try to bring in a different narrative. They know that they have lost definitively, conclusively, and after all these years, they're still trying to redefine things in their favor to avoid the truth. They're covering up the truth. They're not the way. They're not the truth. They're not the light or the life. The light is the life, according to their own scriptures. All right. Martial arts must be defined by what they originally were, and if they lack a spiritual component and a competitive emphasis on light contact sparring, they need additional labeling or to be labeled something else altogether. Ultimate fighting, for example, is an appropriate label. Ultimate fighting. Okay? Ultimate, right? The implications on reproduction. Fighting. Okay? However, mixed martial arts is not. With a lack of black African martial arts to the point that he suppresses them, one must label Asian martial arts Eastern martial arts. Ultimately, martial arts are the most important part of African culture. And black people become the most discriminated people because the highest form of racism is to discriminate what truly made your race. The essence of that race or ethnic group, etc., is the martial arts, right? How they came to be, how they were marshaled together, okay? So to eliminate that from American culture is to discriminate against black people on the highest level, the most intense level. All right. The Hyksos were expelled in 1570 BC. Okay, that's about 1230 years after the Beni Hassan depictions of Nubian and Egyptian wrestling, and a certain applications that you can see that have to do with martial arts applications, certain leg holds, like a front kick being grabbed, and they're grappling him from that front kick position. This guy tried to kick you, you grab, right? It's a response to certain martial arts techniques for the use of fighting and military combat training, but the wrestling doesn't have any practical military application on the field. But for training, reflexes, and strength, yes. And of course, there are other ways to do that. All right. By the Thebans, so the Hyksos were expelled in 1570 BC by the Thebans that followed Amen and possibly the moon deity Yah. According to Tur Egypt, which is considered a fairly valid source, Yah, La, and Jah, are the same deity. Okay, it's a moon god, kind of comparable to Thoth and Khonsu. They learned new techniques from the Bronze Age, and this led to the establishment of the new kingdom in Egypt. So Bronze Age, armor, fighting, starting to evolve, right? Amen has this armor around the top of his self, for example. They're experimenting with different ways to use armor and chariots for warfare. So these people weren't really truly martial artists. They were kind of applying things, kind of like the samurais were applying the guns, right? The shogun, the hand cannons, and so on. Okay. Fighting for honor, 160. Ekpe, one of the best documented of the closed societies. Okay. However, at the ritual heart of Ekpe was the tapping of the leopard's lethal grace for authority through both artistic and paramilitary power. Special hats, knowledge of dance, combat, and literacy. Okay, just like in Egypt, they were kind of merged together. Like other leopard societies throughout West and Central Africa, those of Biafra often used special knives to kill their victims in ways that appeared to be leopard attacks. Ra was a martial arts society, and they were dwelling on the martial arts application of the leopard. Its athletic kind of body type, its speed, strategy, speed, physical contact. Also pointed out in the Shaka Zulu BBC series, they were aware of this, and they're covering it up. Page 166. While Biafran societies utilized the dreaded four-bladed leopard knives. If I can outmaneuver you in sparring and strike you, imagine if I have a four-bladed leopard knife. My goodness. Capoeiras punished malefactors with deft actions of their kicks, headbutts, and blades. Right? What was the movie with Wesley Snipes? It was called Blade. Okay, and of course we have this other movie doing very well in the movie theaters, mind you. It's the Black Panther. I haven't seen it myself because they sabotaged me to such a large degree, right? Hand-eye coordination, right? Mind, body, and soul coordination, dexterity, right? True spiritual dexterity versus corporal or, worldly, non-spiritual dexterity, okay? And so on. All right. The pyramid structure of life. One of two. Do I have enough time for this? I suppose I do. Preparing one's whole life on the path of truth for an honorable death and passing over to build a ladder with your ancestors to your descendants versus a selfish life of spiritual dishonesty. So you're kind of moving in the spirit. You're generating the spirit. One way I describe it as channeling the spirit of God through the divine order, moving with selfless spiritual truth, all-seeing, all-powerful, all-knowing. Seeing the truth, not clouding your judgment or clouding other people's judgment with selfishness and illusion. Versus holding back the desire to set things straight, not because you're holding back the true spirit in the divine order following the sight of God through the pharaoh, but because you're playing the game and following the leader of the New World Order. That is your God. Money is your God. Food is your God. Surviving things of this world. things that affect your kids of this world, not spiritual things of God. So your God is the God of this world and the things he controls. He controls you through them. That's his order. Okay. Cheating Pharaoh is cheating everyone. There is no having a non-rapist society without Pharaoh having his rightful place. So you're living in illusion, you're spreading illusion, you're confusing people, you're marrying somebody, you're getting them trapped with the kids. I'm staying for the sake of the kids, right? You're getting them stuck with you. If they ever become conscious that they're not supposed to be with you, high divorce rates, bunch of people staying with their significant other for the sake of the kids, and still high divorce rates. What is that indicative of? What does that indicate? It is easier to have an impact than to move masterfully and achieve light contact. If Pharaoh does not have integrity, no one has integrity, for the same reason that if Pharaoh is not complete, no one is complete. If the light is not on the stand, not where it should be, not in the lighthouse where it should be, then the lighthouse is not complete, and neither is anyone else. In pharaohs, lighthouse, pheromone, right? Pheromone, pharaoh. I forgot what it means, but it pertains to this as well. Okay, so in life, it is God through Pharaoh versus the other verses that could not possibly include the Spirit of God. God reveals to man at God's speed techniques to be victorious in battle. To redeem oneself, mind, body, and soul in battle is the highest form of human redemption. Right? Even the Bible, it says we are at war with these spirits in the heavenly realms and principalities and so on. It is a war, not peace. The anointed is a red. I must omit that part. The anointed is God of God, not red. Red is the principle of evil. Okay, so that's another place where they kind of threw me out. Okay. Ra for a, refer to. The idea that the word refers to in light leads to the application in the children of God. To never mislead or spread partial truths is part of the generation of force that running on the path to heaven towards the cliff of death creates, so you can take off, and transverse into the heavens through the sun gate, symbolically and otherwise. God's army is a martial arts army, and his messenger in the end was chosen through light contact sparring. Because of man's lack of righteousness, moral clarity, and righteous reproduction, they will not generate the force. Because of man's greed, denying the bloodline of his messenger a suitable wife, God's army is forever AWOL, out of order, on earth at best. If the top martial artist can honestly go through the world and not find a suitable wife, a woman that meets his expectations, that is willing to marry him, regardless of what else is going on, man has failed. God is the creator. The creation, to create in the image, in the spirit of the creator, is key to man's success. And we haven't been doing that for a long, long time for the most part. I am the end of that raw generation. With all due respect, where are the people conceding my point and standing with me? That's the difference between intellect and intelligence and wisdom. Wisdom is truly defined, true wisdom through God's understanding, having the wisdom to follow God regardless of the consequences, putting God before family, country, life, everything, even before your soul. But he doesn't ask us to do that. But if he did, it would be clear, and he'll never ask us to do that, because that's part of the why you do what you do. That's part of making it clear to you what you should do, okay, is that you'll lose your soul if you don't. And he's made it clear through many, many ways. Okay, so it goes back to, are you conveying Luciferian energy and helping the devil shepherd, the wolves in sheep's clothes who pretend that they're sheep and are drugged? I'm a sheep. No, I'm not a wolf. I'm not helping them prey on people. I'm not part of the wolf pack. I'm a sheep. I'm not a jackal. I'm not a jackal, Or are you marshaling in this true spirit of God through the divine order? God has an army. It has an order. There is an order to things, and I am the commanding general. I am the king. I am the top martial artist. I am the great shepherd. I am in charge. And if you do not follow me, you are of the devil. If you are not ready to die by my commands, which come from God, you are of the devil.